Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of your WCPO High School Insider podcast. I'm your host, Mike Dyer. While we're knee-deep into the high school football season, I wanted to take a look ahead to the upcoming basketball season this winter. And this is a girls basketball episode previewing the upcoming season. And I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with She Hoops Ohio staff members Drew Fladung and also Bryce McKey as they analyze the Greater Cincinnati area's top players and top teams looking ahead to this season. Believe it or not, Ohio girls basketball practice officially starts October 21st. So we are getting ready with that right around the corner as we look at some talented teams. Purcell Marian returning a team from a state championship a year ago, and also we have some Ms. basketball candidates as well. If you're looking for our high school football coverage, be sure to check out my podcast on Wednesday as we break down Week 7 and look ahead to Week 8 of this high school football season as the regular season winds down here very quickly. But as I had an opportunity to talk to She Hoops Ohio staff members Bryce McKey and Drew Fladung, I asked Bryce to start off with how unique is it going to be this season not to see three McDonald's All-Americans on the floor in Kyla Oldacre, KK Bransford, and Chance Gray. But he told me there is no shortage of talent for this upcoming season.
Yeah, definitely totally different. Cincinnati is still super strong in the area in general. I think if you look at, a ton of great underclassmen also at Princeton and some different places with Solè, which we can get to that. Purcell had an incredible year and returns a lot, added a lot. I think a big storyline is with Alter staying Division II as the state championship, and then Purcell going up to Division II. That matchup should be, a state championship potentially in the regional. So I think there's some really good storylines, a ton of still really great players, great talent. Cincinnati always is at the highest level and look forward to seeing it.
Well, tell us a little bit about She Hoops Ohio, Bryce, and what you do. And Drew, you could obviously chime in here as well.
Yeah, so She Hoops Ohio is we run events. We have individual events, team events. Classic in the Country is now under She Hoops Ohio. We also will have some big news this week. We're putting out another new event, which we're really excited about in Columbus. We also run individual events, like we said, just trying to bring as much exposure to the players in Ohio as we can and give them opportunities to play in front of coaches and things like that. We also have a scouting service. So just anything we can do to promote Ohio girls basketball and show all the great talent we have here, we love to do.
Drew, I know you coach at West Clermont, obviously as well, but how rewarding has this been, this experience and just, starting this adventure and getting going here with the girls basketball and a way to promote the game in every way that you do?
Yeah, it's been great. I think having the perspective of both a high school coach and an AAU coach kind of gives, a little bit of an advantage in terms of we know what the highest level players are looking for, obviously coaching them in the summer, but also maybe your Division II, Division III NAI type players that I would coach at high school or that are around Cincinnati. That's also a wealth of talent down here, having an avenue for them as well to be able to promote them and make sure that they get seen as well. So it's been great. I've learned a ton from Bryce. Obviously, when we decided to do this, we wanted to make sure that it was done right and we hit the ground running. And it's been a great year so far. We look forward to keeping it going into high school season.
We could probably do just numerical order as far as divisions, but I'm just going to start with Purcell Marian, if you don't mind here. Just Bryce, I'll throw it to you. Obviously, everybody knows about Dee Alexander, the sensational freshman season that she had. And tell us a little bit about what this team has after a 27-1 record a year ago and Division III state title, as I mentioned.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Jamar does a great job. Ton of talent over there, but they're also not scared to play anybody. They really challenge themselves as much as they can outside their conference type stuff. It has to be the clear favorite in Division II now, but, might get a little resistance along the way. But so much talent over there. Have some new incomers coming in as well. Jada Mosley, one of the best shooters in the state as well. Ton of experience. And I think until you get to that Final Four and you experience that, there's nothing like it. So to just have a team that's basically their whole core has already had that is an incredible advantage for them moving forward.
What have you noticed about Dee in terms of what she's added to her game just from a year ago, from the general fan perspective, I guess? Yeah,
I think you have to look at her somewhat like Kirsten Bell back in the day, that she could be one of the favorites for Miss Basketball. You look at Solè and some other kids too. But just her ability in transition, how strong she is getting to the rim, her ability to shoot it. 3-level score that you just kind of have to pick your poison and live with it. She's I think her most underrated thing is she's a great teammate. She has a bunch of talent around her, but for Jada to be able to have the year that she had shooting, Dee had to get it to her sometimes when people collapse on her, or there are other kids as well. I just think she's a great team basketball player that then also shines because of her obviously individual talent too.
Obviously, a lot of players. You mentioned Jada Mosley. I mean, Kira Miller, Sierra Miller, Trinity Small. I mean, they have just a great team. Even besides D too. So I mean, it's is it one of those things where it's just obviously Coach Mosley knows that he's going to be getting the attention and the spotlight, but do you think they're going to thrive under that ability?
I think so too. They also have another freshman, Mackenzie Jones, going to be really good there too. I mean, I think Drew, you can see if you agree with this. I think they're deeper even than they were last year. I think too, that first experience when you get it, like I said, it's just huge. And now they have that. Some of their veterans, even though Dee's a sophomore, I would still consider her experience to be a veteran experience. I think she can bring some people along. And you really can't game plan for her because she can do everything. I think potentially, she's in that generational talent, type conversation, and to see her thrive and do it in Ohio has been really fun to watch.
Drew, what have you noticed from Dee? I mean, I assume she's got a bunch of scholarship offers and she can go anywhere she wants, obviously, but go ahead.
Just a phenomenal talent, top to bottom. We saw her up close and personal, played against her, coached against her this summer, but even watching her in summer league and videos of workouts and things like that, just ultimate team player. The thing I love about her is just how well-rounded she is. Just her ability to score the basketball. She can pass, but like Bryce said, in transition, you're not going to get in her way. I mean, when she's in the open floor, it's just an absolute, game over situation for a defense. But for her, obviously she does other things as well outside of basketball, running camps over at Purcell. I mean, giving back to the community. She's the ideal poster child, not only for Purcell, but for Cincinnati girls basketball. I mean, when you think of the talent that we've had come through here, like you said, with KK and Oldacre and Chance and everybody, she's the next generation. And she's doing a great job, even as a freshman, now sophomore, putting that on her shoulders and kind of carrying that flag and taking over as the next big thing. So
why don't we go to Division I here, Bryce? I know you mentioned Solè Williams here multiple times, obviously outstanding, talented point guard there at Princeton. Tell us a little bit about Solè and what she's done to improve her game, and maybe just Princeton, what do you expect in the ultra competitive GMC?
Yeah, I think Princeton is probably the favorite Division I wise, state-wise, even to win it all. Ton of talent. They're really deep, and I think they're just really well balanced too. I think Solè, point guard wise, has done a great job. I think they have a freshman coming in, Heaven Sneed, as well, that they could kind of slide her around. They put her in some more scoring positions too. Solè is just so good offensively at every level, and you just have to have so much respect for her game plan wise coming in. But similarly in transition, she's so good. Getting to the rim, her outside shots really improved too. I think, similar, you just have to pick your poison and roll with it. But I think Mari Girton transferring there from Summit Country Day was huge for them. I mean, I think she's big time talent, great passer, also can play the point guard spot. You could literally say you have 3 point guards on the floor at the same time, but they can all score. They're great in transition. They're great defensively. So coach has got a lot to work with there, obviously, and some great talent. I think, inside you've got Fortson, who's, got some strength and power for them. So again, I think they're the most well-rounded, probably the most talented team in the state as well. And, I would see them having a great chance to get back to Dayton.
Do you think another stat should be added to Solei's statistics this year? Breaking ankles, how many she might break when
her highlight films are insane.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very cool. Staying in the GMC, Mason, obviously Division I state runner-up a year ago, that very close overtime loss to Reynoldsburg. Drew, what have you seen from the Comets? Obviously they bring back a talented point guard in Madison Parrish. Very impressive freshman season. And tell us a little bit about the Comets.
Yeah, just, obviously any team coached by Rob Tool is always going to have a chance. I think people are putting a ton of onus on the fact that Kyla's gone and, that was their star. But I look at their roster and especially in the GMC, they're still loaded with talent. I mean, Carly Prose is a senior that is a Division I caliber player that can play, inside, outside kind of. She's a starter that has, great experience. Like you mentioned, Madison Parrish, I think, is one of the best guards in the state, if not the Midwest in the country. She's going to take a big step. She had a great summer. She's going to be kind of their go-to, but she can play on the ball or off the ball, which makes her kind of hard to prepare for. And Coach Matul is going to put her in a great spot. Gabby Rosano, another 6'1" inside, outside type player that can play on the perimeter, or she can finish in the post. Amanda Barnes, great role player, and they have a good freshman class. So when I look at their depth, it's definitely not a rebuild. I mean, they're coming in and they're going to be as prevalent as they've ever been. Just from their depth, they have a great point guard coming in, Anna Habra, who's a multi-sport athlete, plays varsity soccer already, but she's going to get minutes. She might even slide into that point guard role. So I look for them to be deep, balanced. They're obviously well coached, and they're not going anywhere. Young, good combination of both senior leadership in pros and Rosano mixed with the younger kids. I think that's a recipe for success.
Kind of staying in the GMC there, Drew. I mean, what have you seen from Lakota East, Lakota West? There's always, you might have a couple teams at the top of that conference, but there's always plenty of other talented teams. I mean, what do you see the rest of the conference?
Yeah, Lakota West, very young. I think they have a really good freshman class that Coach Fishman is excited about. Obviously, when, last year was a bit of a down year for them, but they're going to come in and they're always going to play hard. They're going to be well coached. They're going to get up and down the floor. But I know Coach Fishman's very excited about some of the freshman guards they have coming in. There's a good trio that'll play varsity minutes. They might even start right off the bat over there. And in terms of Lakota East, I think that's the team statewide that not enough people are talking about. They can wreak havoc any given night. They have scoring options at all positions. Madison French, who's a Miami, Ohio commit, is a fantastic guard that can get up and down the floor. She scores at will. Savannah Smith, who is going to Hillsdale, she's a senior post player with tons of varsity experience. And then you have younger guards, Brooke Asher, who's a great point guard, and Emma Fold that can dictate, and they're going to run around. They're going to change things up. Coach Wallace does a great job. He's going to, run a diamond press here, a 1-2-2 press the next possession. And they're hard to prepare for. And they're going to come in and they're going to really get up and down the floor, I feel like, with 4 really good guards that can push the tempo and dictate. And in the GMC, I think that's kind of the way that people are going to play this year. So they're one that's going to surprise a lot of people. They returned 6 of their top 8 in terms of scoring production. So their ability to come in and have that experience now of kids that played varsity when they were freshmen and sophomore that are now juniors and seniors, they're going to surprise some people for sure.
I want to jump around a couple other conferences here, but any other observations on the GMC there that
I would just add, so we ran a high school event, a shootout this summer in Columbus, and Lakota East came up and Dan asked for the top teams because he always wants to be challenged. And they were the one team coming out of there that I knew they're always good and they're solid, but like they are, in my opinion, a dark horse that they're the one team in the tournament. If you had to say right now down that way, you don't want to play from like not necessarily your Princeton, Mason type, whatever, but I think they could beat anybody on any given night, including those. Like I said, so really dangerous team. Like Drew said, Coach Wallace does an incredible job, has won everywhere he's ever been, and ton of respect for that squad.
I want to switch gears here a little bit to the GGCL. Obviously, Mount Notre Dame, everybody knows about their win streak and the legacy that KK Bransford had there, and Coach Dr. Scott Rogers continues to have with the program. Obviously, Mason snapped that streak in the regional final. Very memorable game. But Bryce, what do you see for the Cougars this year, and how different is it going to be not to see KK on the floor?
Yeah, I think they're going to be super young, but kind of like we said with some of the other teams, just coaching wise. And, Mount Notre Dame has a standard that, has been built over years and years and years that, those younger kids grow up wanting to play there. They don't want to disappoint Doc. They want to compete. And that's just the expectation there. And anything less than that isn't good enough. And, I think he'll always get them really motivated. I think they're, young this year and will have not as much experience as they've had. Obviously, losing a KK Bransford is always going to take a hit. But I think they'll be competitive like they always are because they always have been. So,
and Ursuline, another 20-win team in that conference. What does Coach Keith Starks have from what you've gathered, Bryce?
Drew, go ahead with that one if you want.
Yeah, obviously rebuilding. They graduated a phenomenal senior class. Jenna Van Schaik was kind of their heart and soul, and she went on to play at Mercyhurst Division II. She was a senior last year. Good talent, good guards. It's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding process over there in terms of who they're going to start, and obviously playing in that conference night in, night out, not having kids with a ton of varsity experience is going to be an uphill battle. But Coach Starks always does a good job. They'll be ready, but I would say probably 4 of their 5 starters will be new this year in terms of starting varsity. So inexperienced, but GCL kids are tough as nails. They're just built different. They're going to come in and they're going to play hard. And and Coach Starks is going to have them ready to go, but they'll kind of be in a little bit of a rebuild mode.
Jump over to the Eastern Cincinnati camp. Go ahead.
Can we talk about real quick?
Sure.
I feel like everybody we've said playing wise, like the coaching is so strong in Cincinnati. It's incredible. Like you talk about Doc and Fish and Matula and Keith. And I feel like everybody we've talked to, Dan, or talked about, it's the coaching. And I think, it's probably the most, as a coach, but it's one of the most underappreciated parts of that high school experience is, you look at people who can have 1 or 2 good years, which is great because not everybody gets to do that. But the people who have done it over that period of time and even at multiple different places, like when Doc went to Indian Hill and still crushed it, stuff like that. I just think it's the level of coaching in Greater Cincinnati is unbeatable in my opinion. And, to see, I know some of those guys are probably more closer to the end than they were to the start right now, but I think, we need to appreciate what they've given to the game and, see who the next people are coming up. But the level of coaching is just amazing to watch down there. This
could be a whole separate podcast, right? But take me inside what makes such a great high school coach, because you talk about any sport across the board in high school sports, the demands are just unbelievable. You hear that from every coach. It doesn't matter, where you're at in the state of Ohio, but what is it about, some of those coaches that have produced the longevity and success the way they have? It's got to be beyond the X's and O's.
I think it's knowing your team and knowing what they need from you on a daily basis. Some years you may want to really challenge yourselves with your schedule. Some years you might be young and you want to get some confidence early. So knowing your team, I think in girls basketball, it's really relational and just being able to motivate them every single day. You get so much time with them just on a daily basis, back to back to back, where every day matters. And if you don't view it that way, I think you can fall off easily too. But I think the high level coaches find a way to keep them moving in the right direction. With anybody's going to have their highs and lows of the season, but scouting matters a ton. I know those guys we've already talked about are out there all the time watching teams. I think that's really underrated scouting, game planning type value that not everybody does. But I think when in girls basketball comes down to knowing your team and the relational aspect of being able to motivate them every day.
We mentioned Jamar Mosley, obviously winning the state championship last year, first for Purcell Marian as a program, but any other coaches that you really see emerging? It doesn't have to be necessarily the win and loss column, but just maybe an assistant who was recently named a head coach or something that you really think has a bright future.
Drew, you have any ideas there?
Yeah.
Himself as an assistant. So
I know Fairfield's under new leadership for the first time in forever. Dave Loper stepped down, and he was, a tremendous coach that had been around for so many years in the GMC. Got a chance to watch them this summer at Xavier's team camp, and they're, firing on all cylinders. I think their staff as a whole is going to be one that's going to come in and provide a little bit of a refreshment and get in there and be impressive. And they're going to surprise some people in the GMC. Obviously, they return a ton of talent. I think 6 of their top 7 are back. So they're under new leadership. In the ECC, one to watch, I think Keith Braswell and Brad Early taking over at Loveland is going to be a big, obviously with the tragedy that happened to Coach Parker and his passing, to be able to have that continuity, but also guys that know the team and have been there as assistants. I know they coached them intermittently when Coach Parker was out getting treatment last season, and we coached against them, played against them, and they were outstanding. They did a great job. So I would look for those two as co-head coaches at Loveland to kind of step in and really do a great job. They're always going to be prepared. They're a great balance. Coach Braswell, I think, is one of the best skill development type trainers in the area, and Coach Early, has the X's and O's and the game coaching experience. And I think when you put those two together, they're really impressive, and I look for them to have a pretty good year.
Drew, what's the key to? Go ahead, Bryce.
The other one to just talk about is you look at somebody like Coach Dee Davis at Princeton, who, Jill, legendary in her own right, won state championship there, everything like that. But we're starting to be a little more of a project there, and her coming in, building the culture she has in 1 year has been incredible to watch. And I think, anytime we can see former players come back and give back and, females in that aspect too, I think it's great to see what they can do. And, she's in an incredibly tough league, hardest area of the state, hardest district, hardest regional every single year. And I think this year will be where they take that next step, hopefully for them. And she, can create a name in that as well. But she deserves a lot of credit for what she's put together at Princeton right now too.
No doubt. A former McDonald's All-American back in 2003. Obviously, Dee played at Vanderbilt and in the WNBA as well. But Drew, I want to jump over to the ECC conference you know very well. Obviously, we're going to talk about West Clermont here in a second, but Winton Woods, obviously, such a memorable year last year under first-year head coach Carlton Gray, and we mentioned Chance already, but they really turned it around after only having 6 wins 2 years prior. But what do you see from Winton Woods this season?
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record, but obviously coaching there is just as good as it is anywhere else. I mean, Carlton stepped into a situation and took on a program, and obviously having a Chance Gray type kid on your team helps, but she's gone now. But with them, I think last year he did a great job of preparing them to play without her. It was great to play with her, but it wasn't pass the ball to Chance 500 times in a game, and then when she's gone, you don't have any experience or anything like that. They did a great job of getting everybody involved. Now, when it got close and Chance needed to take over, she did that. But their youth movement over there has been great. They have a great sophomore class. Denia Trammell's one who is a versatile wing type big that's 6 foot that can bang with anybody in the city. Nyla Walker, great point guard. She's going to dictate great off of screen and roll type situations. They make a killing on that, but she can spread the floor and get downhill and score. Skylar Kessler, who actually missed last season with an injury. She's a sophomore. She's 6'1", just a total bruiser inside. So they have a great balance of guards and posts that I think they can really put together and shock some teams this year. They're not going to go down in terms of depth. I think they're just getting better. And obviously he's got some great freshmen coming in as well in the 2026 class. So they'll be deep, they'll be good, they'll get up and down and run and pressure and do what Carlton loves to do, and they're going to be a good squad to watch in the ECC.
You mentioned Loveland obviously as well, but West Clermont, you're an assistant there. I know you have a special player there in the 2024 class. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, Sadie Hicks is a transfer from North Carolina. She came to us. We got the opportunity to coach her this summer in AAU, but she's come in. She has offers from Xavier, UC, Ohio State, Dayton, pretty much all the schools in Ohio. She's come in and really kind of amped up the culture a little bit. When you have a big time player like that who has a motor like she does, she's unbelievable. We have a coach that calls her 80-20 instead of 50-50, because if she's tied up with somebody, it's going to be hers 80% of the time, not 50% of the time. She's strong, great rebounder, and she puts the work into her game. She's always developing. She's always looking to get better. She's predominantly played in the post, but she's kind of transitioned to, a 4 type position that allows her to have the ball in her hands a little bit more away from the basket. But she's really put in the effort to kind of improve that aspect of her game, and she's going to be a force. She's fun to watch, and obviously with her family bloodlines, she's in a good spot, and we're really excited to have her.
Seems like you have a very experienced team there, West Clermont too. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we have 4 seniors that have kind of all played varsity. This will be their 4th year playing varsity. We had a bit of a transition period the last 2 years where we threw some young kids out there, and kind of by necessity, they had to kind of take our lumps a little bit, but we've gotten better. Last year had a decent season, and we competed pretty much every game. And this year we're really looking to take that step forward. We're really deep. We have a great balance of seniors, and then we have 3 freshmen coming in that are going to play varsity as well. So it's a good balance, kind of building program perspective moving forward. But Sadie Hicks and Anna Swisshelm are a great 1-2 combo in terms of scoring. Our guards really get after the ball and can push defensively, and we're looking to make a run this year.
Is there anyone else or any other teams that I failed to mention that you definitely want to get on the radar?
Yeah, I think people aren't talking enough. There's 2 teams, I think, in the ECC, just familiarity being there. One of them is Kings. When you talk about their roster, they return 8 of their top 9, and they're incredibly balanced. They have 2 guards that have played varsity since they were freshmen, and Abby Rawlings and Maddie Barnett. They have 2 post players inside. Riley Wells is one of them that does a great job. And Cassie Ingram, their leading scorer, is back, and they were 14-9 last year and return 8 of their top 9. So it's a deep league. They're gonna surprise some people this year. I think that's one of the teams that not enough people are talking about. And then Walnut Hills, Coach Lazar over there does a great job. They return 4 of their top 5. They're more athletic and quicker than they were last year, which is hard to believe, but they're deep and athletic, and they're going to be, when Bryce talked about Lakota East as kind of one of those teams that you just don't want to see. in the postseason, Walnut's going to be one of those teams just because of their size, athleticism. They're going to be able to get up and down and cause teams a lot of problems.
And then we kind of kept this to Greater Cincinnati / Southwest Ohio. But Bryce, can you give me maybe a quick headline, maybe going into the season of just the state overall, just in terms of who you like, maybe in some of these other areas of the state, Columbus, Cleveland, Toledo, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably as balanced as it's been in a while. I don't think there's, Princeton is probably the one that you could say is a super team. In Columbus, I think you have 3 or 4 teams that could come out. You talk about, obviously Reynoldsburg won last year, but lost a lot. Graduation wise, they have some great young players. Jack does a great job. Dublin Kaufman is really strong. We'll have some players back from injury and some new young kids. Pick Central is always really good. Similarly, ridiculously deep. Madison Green, one of the best players in the state, going to Vanderbilt. Westerville South has one of the best freshmen in the state. So I think that's, along with some other kids, but I think that could be a really good regional up there. Toledo last year was also really strong, really competitive. Anthony Wayne came out. They have the Bender twins who are really good. Beat Toledo Start, who has pretty much everybody back and some new kids. I think you could argue maybe 6 to 8 teams could come out of there, honestly. It's just a really well-balanced area. And then over in Northeast Ohio, I think Solon is going to be really good. Hoban's always, has come out, been really good. Jackson had a great year and returns most of their kids. The Federal League is always really strong there. So I think a ton of different teams there. I think Andy Booth's starting to get it back with Wadsworth, where they're going to make a run the next couple of years too. So I think Cincinnati is definitely in the lead as far as with Princeton being the, preseason favorite, but there's definitely some teams out there that will be competing at a high level. I think Laurel in Division III is going to be really good, has one of the best freshmen in the state as well, and Sanaya Hall and Mari Bickley coming back, who one of the best seniors in the state and nationally too. So there's a ton of talent. Kettering Alter, like we said earlier, a ton of talent, won the state championship, add some young freshmen. I mean, we could go on and on, but I just think really well balanced overall in all divisions this year and should be fun to watch.
Bryce, McKey, and Drew Fladung, I really appreciate your time of She Hoops Ohio. Tell us a little bit of how people can follow your content and maybe just any preview information you might have, or just throughout the winter as well.
Yeah, so we have a website, shehoopsohio.com. On there, you can find all sorts of different stuff on our events. You can create your own profile where then we can come out and evaluate you so we can do a write-up in our scouting service. So we think that's a huge new tool where we can keep everybody's information up to date for college coaches. We have Twitter similarly, same, I believe it's She Hoops Ohio tag, right, Drew? Yep. So most of our stuff will go through there. We also just have a bunch of resources on our website for high school coaches, for parents on recruiting stuff, the recruiting calendar for next year. We just want to have as much information and pass along as much as we can so everybody can, know what they're doing, make the best decisions with their time, all those kind of things. So we're really excited. Our first event, we pulled off in about 2 weeks in April. We had 160 kids or so and about 60, 70 coaches of all levels. So again, just trying to bring as much exposure here as we can. Obviously, Ohio has been known as one of the best states for girls basketball for years, and we want to help keep it that way and continue to enhance it. So anything we can do, we're happy to do, and really appreciate you having both of us here today.
Well, a ton of information there from Bryce and Drew, obviously, and really appreciate all of their time. And I'm looking forward to this season. Again, the state championship games will be back at UD Arena again, along with the boys tournament, obviously, in March. So it's always a fun time of year. Obviously, very busy now with the high school football season, but we certainly have some top teams. And you heard about Princeton, maybe the top team in Division I in the entire state of Ohio, especially with senior point guard Solè Williams. And then obviously everybody knows about Dee Alexander and the freshman season that she had a year ago and returning for her sophomore year. Now with Purcell being in Division II, that's going to be interesting to see what Coach Jamar Mosley can do, certainly come tournament time as well. Thanks again for watching and listening, and we will talk again to you soon.